Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
This is the Morning Drive. It's Mira Business FM and media next, which is not something we usually talk about in any great detail. And with global tensions that are and have been dominating headlines, with information and misinformation spreading faster than ever, the question is, how do modern newsrooms navigate high-pressure reporting in real time while they also need to shape conversations around business, around entrepreneurship and the region's future, among other things. Saheem Salim is the editor for the UAE Khalij Times, joins me in the studio. It's a great pleasure to meet you. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I want to consider with you how media organizations operate under pressure this morning, how businesses manage crisis communication as well, and why trust matters more than ever this morning. We kind of touched on that off air just before we started talking. But I want to start with this with you, Saheem. In times of global conflict, how does a modern newsroom now, decide what deserves top priority? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Right. So, at Khalij Times, our editorial strategy is guided by accuracy first.
Right.
Often people say it is speed, but it's accuracy first for us. Then it's usefulness, then it is trust, and then comes speed, which means we prioritize stories that we can confirm and break first. But also it means we'll do breakout stories that help explain what those news breaks are, what it means for people's jobs, what it means for their flights, for their travel, for their vacation, for their kids' schooling. In fact, earlier this week on Monday, I believe, when the alerts sounded again after a month, after nearly a month, I believe. 4
alerts in quick succession.
Yeah, in quick succession too. Yeah. And I got a lot of calls from my friends and my family asking whether schools would go online again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that is the relationship that people share with Khalij Times, where they want to be able to come to our website with their questions and get verified answers.
I mean, this is the change, isn't it? It is now rolling 24/7 reaction, breaking news that it never was in the newsrooms of old, the times that maybe you and I might remember. I don't want to take you back too far, of course. So in a modern mainstream media newsroom, the pressure isn't just about being first, it's about being right. The misinformation is, our lives are full of it at the moment, and it's spreading at scale. There's been this, I suppose, it's like flow-based storytelling now, it seems to me, online. Instant reporting. How has Khalij Times, how have you had to change your kind of mechanical approach, particularly when it comes to verification in the last couple of months?
Right. So, we are specifically referring to breaking news cycles here. So, like I said, it is verified information that we use. We break only verified information, which means whether you have 3 paragraphs, 1, or even a sentence, you just go with it. As long as you're able to attribute it clearly, and you have a source that confirms it to you, you break it. Yeah. And then you kind of keep updating on the go. This is where formats like live blogs help. We've been running a live blog on the Iran war for more than 2.5 months now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and it's still the most popular, the most engaged, and the most read item on the website every single day.
Well, it's not surprising. I mean, I every morning, pretty much as soon as I wake up, I get to the phone, I go to my news app, and I look for the headline on what's happening in this region, because obviously we all want a resolution. You can understand that, but it goes back to your earlier point, doesn't it? You're looking at verified information and the way it impacts us personally. What steps do you employ to combat disinformation? Because there's just so much.
Yeah. See, the thing is, misinformation comes mostly from social media because there's this virality element to misinformation. Yeah. So we treat it like we would treat any tips that we receive. We spot something on social media, we take it to the authorities and tell them this has happened. Tell us what is real. If they give us a confirmation, we run the report. If they don't, we don't. If they give us a denial, we run a denial report. It's really as simple as that. I mean, there was this post on Reddit that I saw. It was this viral claim about something about Dubai. I forget what it is. But there was a comment on that post which said, it's not on Khalij Times. It must not be true. I think that is the kind of relationship or trust that we share with our readers.
Well, if somebody does that, that's the ultimate kind of validation, isn't it? I suppose it is. There's also there's the human filter here, isn't there? That investigative kind of intuition beats AI, beats rumor, beats misinformation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, see, AI, social media, all of this has helped us track information, but then editorial judgment is still what determines what we put out.
Yeah. Okay. How long does it take from when so you see something on Reddit, you see something on social media, and you need to verify that, but you need actual input from the authorities? How fast a process is that now?
Okay. So the thing is, again, like I said, we put out only verified information, something that we can attribute clearly. We have to be able to attribute an information to somebody. There was this news about attack recently where Sudan claimed that the UAE had attacked it with an Emirati drone, and the thing was, we did not run that story even if it appeared on numerous wires around the world. I actually reached out to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and asked them, what is this? I mean, can you give me a statement? And then finally I did get a statement, and that is when I ran the report. So it was not about speed, it was about accuracy, it was about attribution.
But do people ever look at you and think, well, you didn't have that story? Has anybody ever said to you, why are you not running? How often does that?
Not at all. I mean,
really?
See, we used to have an editor who would come at us for missing breaking stories, but not anymore. We have realized that the risk is still definitely not worth it. There is a lot of information out there. You see these wild, extra bold headlines on social media saying breaking, and there's fake news there. If we were to kind of repeat that, it completely defeats the purpose. I mean, we are competing with social media, yes, but we are also competing with credibility. If we put out a fake news or a misleading news as Khalid's Times, I think that damages our reputation more than getting it first. I think getting it right matters more than getting it right, getting it first.
No, I mean, I'm with you. I'm kind of old school about this as well, I have to say. But I mean, you can see how it's easy to fall for it. Pull up Instagram now. Your third, fourth reel will be a massively dramatic piece of music with breaking news, and it will be this, and it'll be the Straits of Hormuz this, and you can see why people fall for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks like the real thing, doesn't it? So social media has made accurate reporting pretty difficult, hasn't it? I suppose in some ways.
Well, on social media, information travels faster than verification does, and I think that is where journalists come in. Again,
that's a great quote.
Yeah.
Information travels faster than verification
it does.
I like that.
I mean, our job as journalists. Anyway, like you keep talking about old school. We go back to the basics. You get an information, you don't run with it. You get an information, you reach out and you get more information on it to run that story. You verify it. You attribute it to somebody before you run it. Even if it is source based, you have to definitively be able to say this is, who told it to us. So I think we go old school even in the age of social media, where we spot information, but we still verify it and put it out only after verifying it.
You have to be nimble, though, don't
Absolutely.
you? Because you've got to kind of balance speed with credibility, particularly when you have the news cycle now. We have a 24/7 news cycle. Whether you look at the news 24/7 or not, that's what it is. You've got to keep up with it. It's not just journalists, though, that are under pressure. We're all very aware of what's happening with UAE businesses. Very tough at the moment, from aviation to startups, whoever. And I guess in a lot of ways, at the moment, it's really important to be able to manage your kind of crisis communications. And I use crisis communications because that's the phrase. I don't want to over-egg this. Yeah. But that's something that UAE businesses have to probably focus more attention on now.
Absolutely. I mean, they have to be careful about what they say. See, messaging carries a lot of weight, especially during crises.
Yeah.
So they cannot be putting out generic statements because that would appear tone deaf, and they cannot be silent either. So I think the approach here should be they put out practical, calm information that people can actually use. You don't cause panic, you don't spread panic, but you don't, so to speak, push the matter under the carpet. It doesn't work that
Well,
way.
you've
You still
got-
have to acknowledge that something has happened, and you have to give information to people that they can actually use.
You have to tell the truth.
Yeah. I mean, see, you may not have all the answers at that moment, and you can be honest about it. You can say, as it stands now, we're not sure what will happen next, or whatever it is. You say what you know. That yes, we acknowledge that this has happened and this has impacted us in this manner, and we'll be in a better position to explain more maybe tomorrow or something, so that people at least know, yes, they are reacting to it, they have acknowledged it, and this is where we stand right now.
Yeah. When a geopolitical trigger happens, like now, imagine imagine a CEO and a managing director listening at the moment. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to protect their brand's trust? And how do you encourage people to be more effective in their crisis comms?
See, the thing is,
Because you have to do this every day.
Absolutely.
With every story you write, you're thinking that way.
every crisis story that I write, what I wish the most? I wished people would come and talk to us calmly and frankly. It's again, like I said, it's not. You're not expected to have all the answers at that particular moment in time.
Yeah.
You can build on. When you don't know, you just say you don't know. But that access, that at least when we reach out as journalists and ask, okay, this has happened. How does it impact your company? We expect them to come out with a statement or a quote or something that we can use for our stories. Again, silence does not help their cause and it does not help our cause. And we're not able to explain to people how a particular development has impacted that company in any sensible form.
Well, silence it's always that thing with any journalist. It always leaves the question, why?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
And you can't get away from that. Just as, actually, what was something I wanted to ask you this morning. I've never worked for a daily newspaper, so I just don't know the answer. But it used to be no comment was always the comment. Is that a good thing to do now? Is that a bad thing to do?
Not at all. See, no comment actually leaves a lot of space for speculation.
It leaves the why question.
It absolutely does. If we were to run a report that says, okay, so and so such and such thing has happened, but the company has refused to comment on it, it is a recipe for fake news. Because people are going to be speculating about it. They're going to say, okay, the company has not responded because of X and Y reasons. And then, the moment when it spreads is when it kind of, because so many different people share it, kind of people assume that it's true.
Yeah, well, this is the issue, isn't it? It's interesting you said there a recipe for fake news, because I think a great deal about fake news because there is so much nonsense online. I'm very much probably a cynical soul, if I'm honest, but I generally look at things. And very often we share information in the office because we're looking for stories, we're looking to talk about things, we're asking questions. But there are times when I think that just doesn't seem right. And you end up saying maybe we're not going to bother with that. It doesn't feel right. And I wonder who's responsible for fake news, because it very often comes from a good place. It may be a long-held belief that you think's really important, but it could be complete and utter nonsense.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you stop that spread.
No, I think it is people reacting to lack of information.
Usually.
I think it is that people start by saying, I think this is what it is. And then it becomes what it is. And then it spreads.
It's a serious issue, though,
It is.
particularly when you've got something like a conflict going on. I genuinely, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I really want a resolution, but I have absolutely no idea what's really going on at the moment. Yeah, and I don't quite know what we do about that. Behind the kind of conflict headlines, let's move away slightly. Something that you're doing, I had a press release the other day, actually. You're heavily involved in the Make It in the Emirates story, of course, that's been going on. You cover agtech, EVs, the startup boom, all that stuff. Is it agtech or agritech? I never know which. Is it agritech?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to change that. How do you balance the kind of heavier news of the day, the big weighty headlines that you need to cover, with the more kind of aspirational stories about, the future of this country, the entrepreneurial attitude, for example? So
it's really a balance of, breaking news versus what is happening. So let me just take you to the example of Make It in the Emirates. You raised it. there's an active conflict happening as we speak. And like you said, a resolution does not seem likely anytime soon. I hope that's not the case. But also, the UAE is moving ahead with its projects, whether you saw the Dubai Metro announcements, the two major announcements made by His Highness. There's so many different projects that have been launched. Not just that, when I sent 2 reporters to Make It in the Emirates and 2 multimedia producers, because that space showcases innovation. It showcases what the future will look like. The kind of resilience that this country demonstrates, often. There were so many different products on offer there. There was this AI-powered bus. There was this company that would completely redo your car the way you wanted. There's so many different aspects, so many different things happening. So I think those stories deserve to be told as well. In fact, I think we produced anywhere between 4 to 5 stories from that event through its duration every single day. And that is how important it is for us to, talk also about moving forward, not staying stuck and not staying still and thinking, okay, this is going to be affecting me in a way that I can't recover from. That's not the case, because the UAE is moving forward. You also have to move forward with it.
It's a good thing to remember, I think. I got sick a few years ago, and I immediately thought, fairly seriously sick, it's fine now, but the point at the time was, I thought, the world's going to stop because it's all about me. And then I realized that's not how it works. And it's the same at times like this, during a conflict. Other things are going on, and Make It in the Emirates is about, pillars, critical pillars in the UAE, whether that's food security or tech or innovation in transportation, whatever it is. Can I ask you, this is kind of one of those questions that maybe you need to ruminate over a little bit. Is trust in the media built on more on the bad news we report or the good news that we verify?
No, I think it is. I think you cannot differentiate between good news and bad news. I think verification is what separates us from the noise on social media.
Yeah.
We give people verified information, and that matters. I'll give you an example. I was interviewing this Dubai tourism official the other day. She spoke about this dedicated WhatsApp channel that they had launched. It's called Dubai Info Hub, which was to release official information, official advisories, whatever was official, they would release it. She said 80,000 people signed up for it within weeks, which means there's an appetite for verified information. Our page views have tripled, more than tripled, in fact, from January to February 28 period. And if you look at from February 28 to March 28, it more than tripled, which means there is appetite for verified information. We saw this during COVID. We saw this during the Dubai floods of 2024. People want verified information in real time. I think that's all that matters. Whether it is good, whether it is bad, it does not matter. What matters is the information is verified.
See, I get the feeling now, and I agree with you. I get the feeling that people, as you doom scroll, and we all do it, you see a story, and for most of us, it's a bit like, I'd like some more details on that.
Yeah.
And very often you look for a more verified news source. At least I hope that's the case. Maybe I'm naive, but I genuinely believe, particularly when there's an important story, something important that really impacts us, like the conflict, for example, because trust is currency.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned Reddit earlier. I would like to mention another. There's this popular thread where they talk about the attacks, and it is very popular and it is very nicely moderated too, because they would not allow fake news, they would not allow anything. And bang on top, they put links of all the official authorities, which is NCMA and Ministry of Defense. Among it was Khalij Times, the National, and Gulf News, which means they're saying, yes, we are giving you this information, but here are the official sources. And among those official sources is a platform like ours. The official, not official, the news organizations that come out of, that operate from the UAE. So there is trust. I mean, this is Reddit that we're speaking about. Reddit often looks down on, legacy media. But then there's this page dedicated to, information about the attacks, and it actually lists us and hyperlinks us to, verified information.
How long has Khalij Times been around? Is it the late 70s? 70?
Yeah, it's 78.
78,
yeah.
so it's around there, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you built up some currency
Absolutely.
there, I think. Something I wanted to ask you about, and this is a press release from, was it last week? Maybe it's the week before. The KT Plus 150 list. So this is, which kind of spotlights young entrepreneurs. I looked at the quote this morning from the press release, recognises emerging business talent. We're in a really uncertain time at the moment, Saheem, but it's important, isn't it, to keep on highlighting innovation, to keep looking at business leaders, because that's the way, I suppose that's the way you look ahead.
Yeah. See, KT Plus 150 it's a platform. It's an editorial franchise that celebrates the youth and their ideas. There are several platforms out there that recognize established business leaders. So with KT Plus 150, we are extending that recognition to the youth and their ideas. There's a lot of talent out there. This is the second time we're producing this franchise. Last year, there was this kid, 15-year-old, on the spectrum. He went on to set a Guinness World Record. There was this doll maker who said she did not find dolls that looked like her, and she went on to build a business around representation. And then there was this magician. He just wanted to teach his craft, so he opened his own online academy. So there is a lot of talent, and I think platforms like KT Plus 150 helps recognize that talent and tell people how the future is being built.
We're not taught to do the things we love still, are we? I suppose.
We don't.
I love the idea of being a magician and just have my own thing.
When we had our KT Plus 150 summit last year, he absolutely dominated the room. I mean, he would go around, taking people by surprise, showing them tricks. The sheer talent that young chap had, and everybody would look at him, and it was really fascinating, really.
Close-up magic is an amazing thing when it's done well.
It is.
So this is an initiative that looks at e-commerce, looks at tourism, looks at cultural impact. Those are kind of key factors I'm reading. Are these industries more important to the UAE's long-term resilience, more important for the global image, do you think?
These are three new categories that we introduced this year.
Yeah,
there are other categories, of course. There's AI, there's education, there is healthcare. All of that is also there. But these are three new categories that we introduced to better reflect where the country is headed. E-commerce means young businesses are digitally savvy.
Right.
So e-commerce definitely warrants a category there. Hospitality and tourism are absolutely central to the UAE's global image and what they're trying to achieve. And if you look at culture, the UAE has been focusing massively on it. If you see the projects in Abu Dhabi that has come of late, Dubai, and really across the Emirates, really. I mean, if you look at it, the focus on culture and heritage is very important for this country. So we wanted to introduce these categories to kind of reflect that direction that the country is headed in.
We're a little bit short on time. We're very short on time, actually. I had a number of questions to ask you, but I'll finish with this, actually. And it's not a sensitive question, but I'm interested in your response to this. The relationship between the media and the government and the public. Here in the UAE, rather than internationally, we're all very aware of what happens internationally with the media, with the way some world leaders shout at their media. But how has it evolved here in the Emirates?
Okay. The government now talks directly to the public via social media. I was, in fact, very surprised when I came, that all government entities in the UAE are active on X. X is the platform that they communicate on. Instagram too, but X is where they really communicate. And the public responds to them as well. I mean, if you look at some of the initiatives that His Highness launches, it's flooded with comments, and there's real-time feedback to those initiatives.
Yeah.
We kind of sit in the middle. We as media kind of sit in the middle, where we take it beyond those announcements. We offer context. We offer background. We offer what it means for you. We convert that into public service journalism to try and explain how that impacts you.
Yeah.
I think it is. In a nutshell, it's government communicates, public response. We try and answer some of those questions that are not answered there yet.
Okay. It's been interesting talking to you. I've enjoyed talking to you. Saheem Salim is the editor for the UAE at Khalij Times. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of a look behind the curtain. Good to meet you.
Tim. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM. The sound of success. Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive. It is Mira Business FM, and it is time for our weekly check-in with the oracle that is Jeffrey Rhodes.
Yes.
That's my new build-up for you. That's how it's going to start every week. The oracle that is Jeff Rhodes. I don't know, Jeff. What's wrong with me? He's the MD for Business Development, Middle East and Asia at Monetary Metals. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice
Good
to see
morning.
you. So I'm on a quest at the moment to do things for my wife. I told you this briefly, but I think this is a good story to share because you made a really good point just there off air. So I'm in a jeweller's and I've had something made and hopefully it works well. Let's see next week. If I'm still here next week, then it's fine. It's gone well. If I'm not here, then she's won the battle. Let's put it that way. But I said to the jeweller, I said, would you mind just weigh my wedding ring, which I've had for 25, 26 years. Okay. And he said, yeah. And it's quite a heavy ring. I had it made. It's a white gold ring. And he weighed it and he said, oh, that's good. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, what does it weigh? 17.5 grams. Gold, which is a fairly heavy ring, but I wear it. I'm used to it. I don't think about it. It's not like that's too much for your ring finger. And then he said, do you know what that's worth now? And I remember thinking at the time that we bought it, that's fairly hefty. Yeah. So I wasn't making a load of money 25 years ago. Not that I am now, but then I wasn't. But he said, no, it was about 1,000 or 1,200 dirhams equivalent those years ago. And he said, it's now worth 7,500
Amazing.
dirhams. And it brought it home to me that I'm walking around with this on. It's a wedding ring. I can't change it because my life's worth more than that, obviously. But it backs up everything you say, that very often we're sitting on a little pot of gold, literally.
It is, Tim. Gold is that absolute store of value that you don't understand how much you've got. If you look at most households, even if you like at the poorer end, what do the workers here working on the building sites and so on, what are they doing? They save some money in gold. Yeah. Everyone does. Yeah. You've got colleagues here who regularly save put money into gold and to a certain extent silver, but the price just goes up and up and up over the years. Obviously, it's not a straight line, but the one true store of value is gold, and your ring tells a really good story that you didn't realize. You got 8,000 dirhams worth on your finger. Yeah. It's not bad.
Well, it could be if your prediction turns out there's $6,500. I didn't want to bring it in this early, but actually it makes the point well. This 7,500 dirhams could be 9 or 10 by the end of the year.
No, easily, and over time it will only go one way because there is a finite amount of gold in the world. And you can't just go and get more gold, from if you like, discovering gold from what I call mine to market, probably 5 to 7 years. So you can't just go and find more sources of gold. And on that basis, we have inflation, right? We have more dollars being printed every day. Yeah. And so the amount of money in your pocket is going up globally every day. Well, that makes the value of gold, which is a finite resource, and it's the true asset that is no one else's liability. That is the real money. That is really the best form of saving. Not everything. 10%. I've always said 10 to 15% in gold, and most people will go, no, we haven't got that. But if they really look at the jewelry that they have and their family has, you'd be surprised. And even, look, I think if you sat down and put everything on the table, all your jewelry and different things, and then looked at the value of that today against your overall net worth, you'd be in that category, mate. Honestly, you would.
You'd be a lot nearer than you realise, because I've never thought about this before. And this is not me trying to be like, look at me, look at my bling.
No, not at all.
This is just a wedding ring.
Sure. No,
the only.
you can't say just a wedding ring.
On one level, it's just a wedding ring.
Yeah, it's very big.
Yeah, I mean that's not going anywhere. So, but it is. It just demonstrates that it is a store of value and a substantial store of value.
It's the same as when you bought it. Same.
It's a remarkable thing. Let me ask you this. Actually, I've often wondered about this, and you might know the answer to this. Pirates back in the day.
Yes.
Okay. Johnny Depp these days, but pirates back in the day were known for wearing an earring.
Yeah,
that's the kind of romantic picture, and I believe this wasn't just a Hollywood construct that there was something exotic about it. It was worn because that was the store of the value of the plunder that you took when you went and pillaged or whatever it was you did.
Or you went through the East End of London.
Or something like that. It could have been, yeah. But I wonder if that makes some sense.
It does make sense, absolutely. Yeah. And look, gold is illogical. Silver's not. Silver has a lot of industrial use. But gold is quite illogical for being so valuable. It doesn't really do anything other than look good. It's okay in electronics a bit, but it's not really used in terms of in the industry. Silver, platinum, palladium are. So there's kind of more going for them. But it is that unshakable belief in the value of gold that certainly pervades Asia. You try and tell an Indian, no, forget gold, invest in equities and so on, which they do now, though. Yeah. But every Indian family will have some gold, and they will buy more gold. There's an auspicious occasion, they'll buy more gold. And that applies to not just India, but throughout Asia. I would say to a certain extent in parts of Europe, strangely enough, France and Germany. So any kind of places where people have had to get up and go quickly, and you take your assets with you. You can't really take your car with you. You can take your car, but you can't take your assets. But I was just saying, your previous guest was editor of Khaleej Times. I remember going back 25 years. There was a picture of me in the gold suit, front page. I think it was the Khaleej Times, with a Samsonite briefcase with $1 million worth of gold in front of me, right? And the point was, in that small space was a huge amount of money. Yeah. And so it's that kind of portability as well of gold as the asset that everyone in the world accepts. You can go anywhere in the world, and even if you can't speak the language, gold is your language. And then you can buy goods and services with that gold anywhere, and you can't destroy it. 9/11, the terrible things that happened there. The tower blocks, one of the tower blocks, under the tower block was a vault, right, a major vault.
Okay.
And completely untouched. The gold completely untouched. And so that is, it's indestructible. Yeah. Gold is indestructible, and that's why it's your forever asset. Just like your ring is your forever asset, which will only go up in value. Over time, it will only go one way.
Yeah. It's just something that this week that was kind of brought home, and it's not something I really think about, but...
Just as well, we've got your ring to talk about, Tim, because not much else to talk about. Gold.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was sat kind of planning some topics for you yesterday, and I'm really struggling.
It's the same.
Yeah, it really is.
The conflict. There's bad news. Gold goes down. This is really bizarre. Bad news, gold goes down. Yeah. Good news, gold goes up. And yesterday at this time, gold was on a bit of a tear. It had rallied from 4,500 day before, and it was up to a high yesterday of 4,750. Decent rally, really a decent rally.
It is, yeah.
And it looked as though we were in for a resolution to the conflict. Then suddenly you woke up this morning and it's kind of on again. And so guess what? Gold came off to 46.50, but once again it's rallying. Gold wants to rally. Right? It does. It feels as though $5,000 plus is around the corner, but it needs that good news from the Gulf to say the conflict is over. Let's focus on growth again and getting everything back to normal. Which I say every Friday, Tim. This weekend could be the weekend, and I really think it could be the weekend that we get some kind of resolution and we get back to normal.
So that means gold heading up to 5,000, back to normal, and then your 6.5.
6.5
for this year.
I tell you, the fact that we've had this hiatus in the rally over the last month or so just makes me even more confident, because it could have gone lower. It could have gone low, and it didn't.
That's interesting, because I've look at the course of this week, 4,500 to what is trading now around about 4,720. It's in that kind of region, right? So gold prices have fallen 10% since late February, and we know why that is, of course. But when you consider the backdrop to that, 64% up in 2025,
correct,
you can see why at the moment it's like people sat on their hands.
It's typical.
That's how it feels.
It is. Look, there is. I tell you why it hasn't gone lower. Often in markets, you see rallies and sell-offs driven very much by, if you like, people using borrowed money, like margin money, to actually drive their price. What are they? They're speculators. There's a lot of speculative activity in financial markets. The rally in the gold price over the last 3 years is not speculative at all.
Right.
It's fundamental buying by central banks and by investment funds looking at the long term. Okay, ETF buyers looking at the long term.
Yeah.
Central banks looking at the long term. If you like, that dollar diversification at an official level is still underway, in my opinion. And so that's looking for the future. So the outlook for gold, the longer term, the short, medium, and long term outlook, are all bullish, no matter what you say, because it comes back. You can't print gold. You can print dollars, as many as you want. Yeah. I'm sure Mr. Trump will be doing that. But one of the things I do like about President Trump and the fact that we've got the incoming Fed governor, the concept of lower interest rates is actually good for growth. It really is good for growth. So if your mortgage is based on, say, 2% plus the credit spread rather than 5%, then you've got money, a bit of extra money to spend, and that stimulates growth. So the concept of lower interest rates is good for growth. And also, if you only got 2%, you're getting 2%. You leave your money in the bank, you're earning 2%.
Yeah,
might as well go with gold. It's up 100% in the last 3 years.
Well, you've said this many times. Trump is good for gold. Is your phrase?
Trump is good for gold. Yeah.
So, what was I going to say to you? Yeah, you can't create gold yet. You can make a diamond, you can make a sapphire, you can make an emerald. Pretty straightforward, and they're as good as, in theory, as good as the ones that you have to dig out of the ground. Gold, you can't recreate or replicate.
No, you can't. But
the Chinese are trying.
They're trying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to wake up one morning and see AI can create gold. That would not be good for my career.
I was going to say that's the time when all of a sudden your gold handicap comes down. You've got the time to do it.
Yeah, my gold handicap goes up and the golf one comes down.
It's amazing how the two most important things in your life, or seemingly, both begin with G.
Yeah.
There's an O, there's an L, and then the only letter is the one at the end that's different.
Yeah, but you're forgetting something. There's SVURS.
Well, yeah, this is true. Yeah, say no more. Let me just one quick question, Jeff. Before investors are waiting for employment the employment report today, the data today. So that should give us a pointer towards really just how resilient the US economy is.
Yeah,
I guess at a time when
yeah.
it's pretty tough at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, we're not expecting anything dramatic. And in terms of the gold price, honestly, at the moment, it's all about the conflict in the Gulf.
It is. Well,
Peace
that's every
equals
report.
higher gold prices.
Yeah,
Conflict,
every report from you for the last...
same thing.
It is the same thing.
Yeah,
and it's much as I like you being here and talking to you, it's a struggle to keep it on track, because the variances are...
Yeah, I guess so.
Are they?
But we could talk about... Look at silver yesterday. Silver had an amazing rally at one point. It was up 10%.
Yeah, yeah.
But it doesn't grab the headlines.
Silver this morning went about just under 80.
80, yeah.
Dollars, yeah.
Absolutely. So, and this is a precious metal that languished in the sort of mid-20s for a number of years. And no one could see beyond the end of their noses to see a rally coming. But you'll know that when it was around $30, my prediction was 60. And this year my prediction is 150.
I've just written that down there. I was going to ask you.
It's still there, Tim.
Yeah.
It's still fundamentally, silver has a lot more going for it than gold because it is industrially very important.
It's useful in different ways. It's pretty, as long as you keep it clean, but
And
it has far more
in
application,
AI,
doesn't it?
it's used. In solar, it's used. You still have lots of medical applications. Okay. It's still, film still uses silver.
It's remarkable. Isn't it all video these days?
It's still silver. There's silver there.
Yeah.
Honestly, Tim, it is. So for years, everyone was comfortable that there was plenty of silver in London. It was if you wanted to sell short, it was easy to borrow. It didn't cost you much. So really it took the shape of oversupply. But then suddenly, people started to realise that a lot of the silver in vaults in London is actually pledged, and it's pledged against ETFs. So the amount of, if you like, disposable silver, discretionary silver, is probably about 25% of what people thought. And so silver developed a lease rate, which it never had before.
Yeah. So if you have a nice silver tea service, I don't even know if that's still a thing.
Keep it.
Keep it.
Keep it. Tim, do you remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, that in London there were queues around the block in Hatton Garden for people taking their silver tea sets and lots of trinkets into Johnson Matthey. This is when silver went to $50 from $2. So in 1978, silver price was $2 an ounce. At the start of 1980, it was $50 an ounce. And that rally was caused by buying from this part of the world. There was a corner, it was a silver corner, and there was a group of people who got together, decided to buy all the world's silver, right? And they got it from $2 to $50.
Some run.
And what turned it? It was all of our mums and dads and granddads and grandmothers queuing up in Hatton Garden to cash in their silver.
That's been sat on the sideboard for 50 years and is getting a little bit kind of not really
Not
very
good.
silvery.
Yeah.
No, it's remarkable.
It's
That's
remarkable.
that's why you're here, Jeff. The oracle that is Jeff Rose. Do you know, there was one thing, I was reading your report, it was yesterday's report, your terminology of the day, XRF.
Yeah, XRF.
That's a great thing to have, because when do you ever get anything for X when you do like a terminology, alphabetical terminology database? X-ray fluorescence, which is a non-destructive analytical technique used to determine the elemental composition of materials.
Correct. Really used a lot these days with old gold that comes in, is going to, scrap gold, or Dory gold. Dory gold it's rudimentary kind of refined gold, but not finished, not a finished product. So XRF is the way you determine the kind of purity of the metal in front of you, and also the weight and so on. So look, unfortunately, that marks the end of my terminology series, because I can't go beyond that.
There's no Z in there? Is there a Z? A Z? What am I doing saying Z? What's wrong with me?
No.
Oh dear,
No,
I
I've got
apologise.
to think. Maybe I'll have some golden nuggets or fascinating facts. I'll need to put something in because the gold market is so boring at the moment. We do need a little bit of extra life.
That's why we invite you here, Jeff, for your golden nuggets. That's why you're here every week. Always good to talk to you, Jeff Jeff Rhodes is the Managing Director for Business Development, Middle East and Asia, Monetary Metals. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Good to see you. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This week's edition of Luxury Breaks here on Business FM on the Morning Drive, it is all about the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's back on the 17th of May, and what happens is riders from more than 100 countries, I'm told, are going to raise awareness and funds for men's mental health and prostate cancer research. And it's a global movement. It's raised over $60 million since launching, and the UAE plays an increasingly active role. So, joining us this morning, along with Jacek from X Motors, nice to see you, we have a special guest. Mr. Khan is the host for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride in the UAE, here to talk about turning his passion for motorcycles into a platform for awareness and community impact. It's good to meet you.
It's great to meet you. Good morning.
I have to say, first of all, great beard. I am jealous. At some point in my life, I'm trying to get there. It's good to meet you. Let's start with you, actually. I walked out into the office there just now. Motorcycle helmet on the table, backpack, assorted motorcycle accoutrements. You're obviously a rider of some years. This is your thing, huh?
Yeah, it's my first love. Been riding for 20 years plus or so in Dubai. And I think it's just the best and easiest way to get around, And the heat doesn't bother me, if that's going to be something of discussion.
Well, that's the natural way to go. But I'm sort of with you. I've never really ridden motorcycles, but I have a little bit on holiday traveling, and I'm with you because it just strikes me that it is the ultimate way to travel. It's the closest you get to your environment. Because you're part of the environment.
You're part of the environment.
It's a hard thing to put across.
Yeah, there's a book I read called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, there's a phrase in there, there's a line in there that says that being in a car is like watching TV because you're inside the vehicle and you're behind a window. Whereas on a motorcycle, you're part of the elements. You smell everything around you, you feel everything around you, and you're one with the machine.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense.
Does.
And that kind of stayed with me, and it made me, kind of realize why I love riding motorcycles. And I love cars too, if it's being driven by somebody else, not me. But
really?
Yeah, motorcycles are my thing.
Well, it's always the thing, whenever Jacek's here, he's here every week for this show, but whenever we're talking motorcycles, his first comment is always, why are you talking about something with two less wheels than is necessary? That's your general attitude. But, you can understand there's something about the brotherhood of it, isn't there? There's something about all the subcultures that extend from.
I'm not good in socializing, so maybe it was
that could be what it is.
Yeah.
He's trying to close the windows.
Yeah, there's a lot of riders like that too. Who, they start off saying we don't like socializing, and that's fine because when you're on the road, you're not really talking to each other. You're just riding. Your focus is, laser focused on the road. Everything else is kind of a blur, and you're just enjoying the ride.
So you need to achieve a proper speed to get this blur.
Some guys like speed, some guys like cruising, right? And I think going back to what you said about brotherhood, it is somewhat a bit about camaraderie. There are guys, there's a lot of women riding now as well in Dubai. And I think when they get together, the biggest topic of discussion is the motorcycle itself, what kind of customizations they're doing to it, or if it's a vintage bike, what's the heritage of that motorcycle? What was the origin? Why did they change it and bring it back into business? For example, the Triumph Thunderbird from 1995 was a massive achievement for Triumph motorcycles back in the day because that bike kind of put them back on the market. Now, the average Joe might not know that, but the passionate rider would, and that becomes a topic of discussion, which eventually becomes a sit-down, which then evolves into other discussions, and then before you know it, everyone's kind of like checking in on themselves, and it weirdly just brings everyone together, in a community sort of way.
Well, vintage motorcycles, there's a whole subculture and a community in that. I mean, that's your thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The vintage bike.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a fairly enough decent collection of motorcycles. Some of them are newer than the others, and I mean, I embrace technology. I love the evolution of technology. Do I love every side of new tech? Maybe not, but I welcome it. I want to see how motorcycles are evolving, just so that I have the knowledge of it. But yeah, heritage bikes, vintage motorcycles is very much my thing. I think we are the only group in the UAE that kind of champions vintage motorcycles, and we actually ride them as opposed to just having them on display, you know. So that's us. That's the Piston Kings motorcycle community.
Okay, so tell me about your bikes then.
My bikes.
Would I know them?
Well, if I mean, since you're from the UK, you definitely know Triumph.
I would. I was telling you the story. I grew up next to two guys that rode them, real bike community outside the house.
Yeah, and
summer nights were noisy.
Well, that kind of comes with the package, right? The sound. So I ride a Triumph. That's my daily bike. It's a Triumph Bonneville 2010.
Okay.
And I have a Triumph Scrambler 900 from 2008, which is the last of the carbureted versions. These are two of my favorite motorcycles. I would go anywhere on them.
Yep.
Other than that, there's an adventure bike, which is a Honda Africa Twin, 2019, which I take off-roading, which is great when you kind of, you know, you don't want to ride the roads anymore in Dubai. You get into the mountains, which is more into the Hajar mountain range, the Northern Emirates, as they would say it. So it's great to kind of get off the main road and get onto these trails. And there's hundreds and thousands of them out there. Right? Once you're off-road, it's like a playground for motorcycle riders or four-wheel drives, you know, whatever you fancy.
Sure.
So yeah, those are some of the bikes I've got. I do have my guilty pleasure. I do have a Honda CBR Fireblade from 1999, which was also the last of the carbureted versions, which I acquired in recent years. And it's a 30-year-old bike. It's a sports motorcycle, and it still rides great. And I came across it, and I was like, this was the bike that I couldn't buy when I was a kid. And somebody's selling it, so I kind of said, okay, let me kind of make that, you know, young Khan happy and get this motorcycle. And truth be told, I don't ride it much. It's more like maybe twice a year kind of thing. But it feels good.
You've got the best of both worlds there. The young Khan is happy. You've got the bike that you can look at, and you can also ride it.
Yeah, I do. I took it out the other day to Circle Avenue. But like I said, I'm not a speed freak. I love cruising my motorcycles. I'm probably the slowest rider in my group of friends.
Right.
But I enjoy it. Like I said, you know, it's that example I gave earlier from the book that you just kind of feel like you're one with the elements and the bike.
Yeah, that's certainly a thing. What do you think about Harley Davidsons? Are you have you ever had one? Ever ridden one? Because that community here is huge.
It's huge. I think almost every other motorcycle club in Dubai are mostly Harley Davidson riders.
Yeah,
and of
well, I was
course,
surprised you didn't mention it there in your bikes. Not surprised, but I half expected you to mention Harley, and I'm wondering if maybe you're not a Harley guy. I think that's where I'm going.
I'm probably not a Harley guy, but I do have a Street Bob from 2013, Harley Davidson, and I have an Electroglide from 2010. The Electroglide is probably the bike the missus loves best because it's so comfortable. It's a touring bike. I do like the Street Bob. It's more like it's kind of turned into a traditional Harley chopper.
Right.
But my heart still always goes to the Triumph. For some reason, the heritage that's there behind Triumph motorcycles is something I gravitate to more. The Cafe Racer era, the Ace Cafe era, the history that comes from there was something that fascinated me when I was young. And it's just like I mentioned earlier, it's a daily bike for me, and it's super comfortable. I mean, you can't go wrong. Plus, if you are the kind of rider who wants to learn the mechanics of a motorcycle and maybe get into self-maintenance and self-care and really learn what's in, you know, what the engine looks like inside out, the Bonneville is a great bike to start with.
Okay. And Triumph, if I'm not mistaken, was the first bike to go round the world, I think. And that was Ted Simon in the early 70s.
Oh, wow, I got to
Went
look.
round the world on a Triumph.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was the first to do that. It was certainly among, the first 2 or 3. I know that. Let's talk a bit about the Distinguished Gentleman's
Yeah.
Ride. So this is not a traditional kind of charity event, is it?
No, it's not a traditional charity event at all, actually, and it only happens once a year. The Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, or DGR for short, originated 15 years ago from Australia by a gentleman called Mark Howa. He's the founder of it, and it was him and a couple of blokes who got together to raise awareness for their friends and people they knew who were, going through a hard time, mentally speaking. And the ride globally is done to raise awareness on men's mental health and prostate cancer research, to be specific, because it's tied with the Movember Charity Foundation. And that's how it started 15 years ago. And fast forward to today, it's taking place in over 1,023 cities all across the globe. The one we represent and host is called DGR Arabia, which happens in Dubai every year. It's on May the 17th, which is a Sunday. And the reason it happens at that time in Dubai is because it happens on the same day all across the world. So we're all celebrating and we're all raising awareness for the same cause at the same time. Hundreds and thousands, if not millions, of riders with vintage and classic motorcycles unite for this wonderful cause, which, let's be honest, I mean, you don't come across a lot of events that are focused purely on men's mental health. It's not something that gets spoken about a lot.
It's hard to talk about.
Yeah,
I
it is.
think,
It
you
is.
know?
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time someone checked in on any of us, right? It's maybe it's your significant other, but other than that, life moves really fast. And before you know it, you're another year older and another year older, and so many things have happened, and no one's really had a chance, or you've not had a chance to just take kind of things slow down, check in on yourself, as opposed to others.
I try and do that now, more and more. I try and be like the grumpy old man sat on the balcony just staring into space. I wonder if that's just me, isn't it? But actually, it makes a really good point, because it's an opportunity to do something you love, get involved with the people around you in your community, whatever that is, whether it's a subculture or not, and to talk about something that's really important that we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about or talking about.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't even think about it because we're busy, with deadlines, or something else. But no, it's we took it over. So every city has its own host. It's happened in Dubai over the years, since 2012. But we, as Piston Kings motorcycle community, took it over 3 years ago. We opted in to be the hosts and said, listen, if we're going to do this, let's do it right, and let's really raise awareness, as opposed to it being just another weekend ride where you get together for breakfast, And some of the team worked really hard on it. Since last year, we got endorsed by the Emirates Motorsports Organization. We've had Dubai Health Authority come on board. We've got the Dubai Sports Council come on board. And, it's great to see that these government institutions recognize the cause, and they're part of this project and this event. There's a massive fun element to it where, as the name says, everyone kind of comes as a gentleman, which means that you put on your best outfit.
You dress up, don't you?
You dress up, you dapper up, right?
Okay.
I mean, to see everyone do that from the ages of, as young as, 18 to 60 and get together, it's quite a spectacle. It's not a motor show, it's not a fashion show, it's really something different, something else. And everyone kind of gets together that way, openly talking about the cause, openly talking about their motorcycles, which everyone loves anyway when they're in the community, and really raise awareness and funds for this special cause, which is men's mental health and prostate cancer research.
Okay, so you dress up and you ride. What else happens on the 17th?
Every city kind of has its own, let's say, activities that they attach to the project. What we do is we kind of have the small awards kind of ceremony where we give away prizes for the best dressed male, best dressed female. There's a lot of females who join the ride in support of their brothers, their husbands, their friends. We give prizes for the most heritage and well-kept motorcycle. We've got partners on board from Dubai who kind of help support and bring this event to life. They've got their own activities that they're doing with photo booths and photo walls and interviews at the event, kind of checking in on all the guys, asking them how they're doing. We've got F&B outlets coming on board, slashing out their prices just so that they could kind of do their bit of CSR and kind of give back to the community. So it's quite a gathering, and it's family friendly. If I haven't mentioned that earlier, it's not a ticketed event. It's open to the public, right? So anyone can come and experience this. And it's not just the riders themselves. There's obviously a ride attached to it, which is a 30-minute loop ride within the city of Dubai. So we kind of go across town. But then when we're not riding and we're getting together, it's kind of really welcoming to each other and letting members of the public also kind of feel welcomed and be inclusive and be part of it and understand why we're doing it. So there's a lot happening on that one day. Yeah.
Well, there is. I mean, where does it start? Because not everybody's a motorcycle rider, but I guess people would want to come down to see the bikes. Get involved. So where would you go to get involved?
In previous years, we'd always have two locations, let's say point A and point B, because we'd ride from point A to point B.
Right.
We realized that people who are not riding either come to one of those locations, either at the starting point or the ending point. So this year, for the first time, we kept it as one location, and we worked really close with EMSO, which is the Emirates Motorsports Organization, as well as RTA to create this beautiful inner city route, which lasts about 30 minutes, right? So while the event officially starts around 3 p.m., the ride itself happens around the 5 p.m. mark. It lasts 30 minutes, and all the riders take a loop of the city and come back to the same location.
Gotcha.
So while the guys are out there riding, members of the public can still continue with the activities that are happening at the venue. And once the entire convoy comes back, and believe me, I'm not kidding when I say this, to see 300 plus riders all dressed up in their best outfits arrive at the same time, it's quite a spectacle. I mean, in the past 2 years, I've seen people just flip out their phones and cameras, and they just can't get enough of it. And I think that itself makes the riders kind of feel good. It makes them feel proud of their motorcycles. It makes them feel proud of the friends that they're riding with, and it makes them feel proud of the reason why they're riding.
You can see that because an event like this is to raise awareness about men's mental health, about prostate cancer.
Yeah.
And if you create an environment, a positive environment around that, you get a more open conversation, a more accepting
100%.
Conversation, don't you? I
100%.
suppose. Where's the venue? By the way?
It's called 25 Jump Street.
Right.
It's called 25 Jump Street, the central area, which is literally between Dubai World Trade Center and the Museum of the Future.
Right.
If anyone knows the 25-hour hotel, it's right behind that.
Yeah.
People can go, if anyone's interested to ride and be part of the convoy, they have to register on dgrarabia.com. It's a free registration. The reason we do that is so that we can keep count of the number of riders, and we can allow our marshal team and the leadership team to make sure that they take control of the entire convoy, because 300 riders being on the road at the same time is not an easy task to manage. But
it's a full road.
It's pretty much the entire road. Last year we were escorted by Dubai Police and EMSO. So we had their support on the road. We take into all the health and safety considerations. We've got an ambulance following us. We've got a recovery truck following us. All of this happened last year. The year before that, we didn't have any of that. And we were just, a bunch of guys in the motorcycle community trying to put this together. Yeah. And it's kind of becoming a full-time job. But at the same time, because we're passionate riders, it's just fun to organize for us.
Yeah.
And we take pride in it. 25 Jump Street is the location. That's where everyone congregates. That's where we celebrate. And that's where we get together.
What do you think, Jacek? Good.
You've been
Do you
quiet.
really want my?
I know that-
do you really want my opinion?
I'm not sure that I do really, but I'm aware that you're.
I think I killed
listening.
this little boy, which was excited about this kind of events many years ago. So it doesn't exist inside my mind anymore.
It's not enough wheels for you on the vehicle, is it?
It's
That's the issue.
sorry to say, for me, would be a waste of time
Okay.
because I wouldn't change the world.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of commuting. I'm sitting on a bicycle or sitting on a bike or sitting in a car. When you're making around a few laps, doing nothing, it's like a commuting, which I can spend on different things. And okay, as I told you, I'm not
You
good in
can.
socializing. So the crowd, so many people, it's nothing which I like. So it's nothing.
But the cause is the key here, and I think that's what's important. If you're not a motorcycle guy or you're not a social guy, the cause is the important thing, I think, because you would say yourself, we don't talk about stuff that bothers us.
And
that's
also,
very much
don't you
a
think
male thing.
the gentleman and the vintage bike rider is oxymoron?
I don't. No, I can
Because
see this.
you said you remember these
No,
two
I don't
guys
agree
who were
with you.
sitting next to your house when you've been young, okay? Those guys are loud, noisy, okay?
They were, yeah.
Sometimes making some harsh, right? And now we're trying to tell about them, gentlemen.
Yeah, but you see, this is the thing with biking, right? Mr. Carr, let me make a case for you here, right? These two guys, Gary and Graham were their names, right? They both had bad motorcycle accidents, unfortunately, and
sorry to
stopped
hear that.
riding. But they were just young biker guys, but they've moved into different roles in industry. They're sort of quite gentlemanly now, and I think that's the cause. Because this is biking to me. Tell me if I'm wrong. Bike is like a lifestyle choice. This is what you do this because you love this. This is kind of part of you in a very different way to driving a car. Driving a car,
I
to
understand
most
this one.
of us,
If I will be
is functional.
nearby and I will see this parade, I will tell, okay, walking nearby with my wife, I'll tell, okay, see those guys trying to be gentlemen, but those are the same guys with the noisy bikes in this cars.
Yeah, but
Right?
young men, young women, we all make mistakes. We grow up into different people.
But
These are the things you have to
the
do.
young
It's a rite of passage.
Young generation, you're right.
Yeah.
Young generation doesn't understand what is the gentleman. So
Yeah, but you become a lady or a gentleman, don't you? You grow into that role.
on a
And there's no reason
noisy
why-
Harley Davidson in the leather jacket, gentlemen.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? You don't have to pigeonhole
we can
everybody.
consider to be a gentleman as a state of mind. Okay.
Yeah.
But all this entourage, which is connected to be a gentleman, there is no connection between a noisy Harley Davidson, let's say, okay, or Triumph.
I'm not sure that Harley Davidson rider would agree with you on that.
I can say there's personally more than 300 riders who you can come and see a week from now who might not agree with you. But I think, like you said, it's a matter of perspective. And I mean, if it feels something you can relate to, then I think someone like you should definitely come there just to kind of understand the cause, but also the camaraderie. And I mean, if you're a motorhead yourself, since you're into cars, you might find a passion for something you didn't know existed. You know?
Yeah, but
Maybe.
for me, the passion to the cars is also the speed, the adrenaline.
Sure.
There is no adrenaline in the cruising.
Sure. And one can argue that maybe speed's connected too much to safety.
Yes, it should
and
be.
It should be, right?
It has to be on the
Yeah,
edge. If
yeah.
it's too close
Yeah.
if it's close to the edge or even outside of the edge, it's better.
Sure.
If it's not close enough to the edge, there's no adrenaline.
Yeah.
So-
Well, think of this as us being over the edge too, right?
There's something about two wheels. There is. There's something that makes you smile.
I have a friend who is riding on a sport motorbikes. He was 40, something like that. He bought the first motorbike, a simple one, then step by step, he reached the level when he's going on the track days every week. he bought a special trailer. He bought also the car to tow this trailer. So, and I understand he had a serious accident last year, recovering half a year, close to that. And he said, I'm selling everything. And I saw a month ago the post on Facebook. I'm on a racing track again. That's the adrenaline, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay? But if adrenaline is any kind of commuting, riding, slowing down, and socializing, it's not connected to this smell of petrol, smell of burned rubber, something like this. So it has to be rush. It's like Formula One is now coming to be like... I don't want to use
you
improper
lament
words.
those
but,
days, I know that, yeah. But you're a cyclist, so you understand the idea of riding with, your brothers.
yeah, but I have a problem because a part of the cycling is to be to have endurance rides, okay, to boost up your potential. But I like when we are riding very fast, very close to each other. It's very easy to break your bones in this moment.
Yeah, no,
So
I know.
if there is no speed, there's no fun. Same on MTB bikes. I'm going every week, and if I'm not coming without falling down, I failed.
Yeah, but that's you. You're an adrenaline junkie, aren't you? You're after the rush. You are. I mean, if you're a hypercar, supercar,
maybe
speed.
I have this limit just higher than others, and I need to have a kind of boost. But if something is just a gathering, talking, chatting, it's not interesting. And like you said, the time is going very fast, and losing a time or such a thing is like wasting your life.
Sure.
We have a very limited time in our lives,
we do.
so
We do.
I want to spend it as fast as possible.
Sure.
Then wait for something.
What are you waiting for?
Waiting for something, riding on a bicycle with a slow parade.
Sure. I mean, it's slow because it's 300 guys riding at the same time. But like I said, it's not more about the ride.
Ride a bike, go to the desert, and
Yeah.
speed up as fast as possible.
Sure, do that. That's what the guys are doing the remaining 364 days of the year.
I wouldn't call myself the gentleman this moment.
That is, I'm not going to argue with that on you. I wouldn't call you a gentleman either, but hey, here you are, you're looking
Set him up,
great.
he knocks him down. I like that. But this is a different thing. I mean, this is the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's on the 17th of May. It's at
25 Jump Street.
25 Jump Street, which is a kind of trade centre,
Yeah,
just a little bit more towards Museum of the Future, if you want to get involved. And talk about prostate cancer. It's an important cause, very important cause, and of course, mental health for us males of the
Yeah.
species as well.
Yeah.
For a change, I suppose. That's a good thing to do, I think. Mr. Khan, I'm
sir.
calling you an ambassador, a host for DGR in the UAE. Good to talk to you.
It's lovely talking to you. Thanks for having
Appreciate
me
you coming
here.
in.
Yeah. No,
And Jacek, as always,
Opposite.
as always opposite, but nonetheless a pleasure to see you. Good to have you here.
see you on the 17th.
Okay.
Bring your family if you feel like.
Yeah, we'll get you a ticket. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Welcome to Crossroads. This show is brought to you in collaboration between Mira Business FM and Middlesex University Dubai. I'm Dima Magalse, here with my great co-host David Tully. Did you notice my voice is crisp and clear?
I did notice that. Thank you.
Because I'm in the studio finally. Hello, David.
Like a real professional. Hello, Dima. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
Almost
I'm
3
here.
months since you and I have been in the same room, and we haven't come to blows once yet.
No,
it's amazing.
No. And nothing match being in the same room.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's amazing.
The magic is back.
Yes, hopefully. And there's no dog in the background or anything. Now we're back into being proper.
He did pass through all of his paperwork. You got all of his papers in order. Very
finally,
good.
You know, as much as I was trying to be responsible, but not anymore. First and last time I would
Is
ever
this your
do
way
it.
of saying that you left the dog behind?
No,
Please
no,
don't.
he's here. I'm going to leave him behind here. No, but only if I have to, I will do it. Never again. But yeah, back to the show, because usually we don't know how time passes, like 1 hour, and we're always like feel there's more to say.
Yeah, we always get cut off.
So we'll
by
start.
Faraj with the blues theme.
Yes, yes.
Shut up.
So we'll start directly with
Absolutely.
our guest, which I find it really interesting, and I'm really excited for today's conversation, not only because we both are in the studio finally with our guest, but because she has such a interesting profile and such interesting look at the industry. We have Dana Al-Hambali. She's a writer and entrepreneur. And the main exciting thing is usually when you hear a writer, you think someone who is just introspective in their own creative work.
Troubled loner.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
But she's not just a troubled loner.
No, I've made a business out of it.
That's the interesting part. Like, how do you combine between these two worlds? And this is what we're going to discuss more and know more about your work and, of course, your business that you're working on. Welcome to the show, Dana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. I got to say, I love the energy.
Woohoo. We love having you here.
Yeah.
And you're an impressive person. Let's just put it this way.
Thank you.
It's very rare that you meet the whole package. Not just the troubled loner, the creative, but also somebody with a head for business.
Usually you find writers or, for example, purely artists, they need an agent or like a talent manager who can manage that, but you're two in one. And also your work has a lot of empowering and just giving guidance as well, which we will get to that. But first, maybe you can give us a brief about what do you do, what kind of projects you're involved in, and then we'll get into detail.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's interesting? I mean, I know you guys talk about it as if it's, thank you for the kind words, and I'll take it. But I feel like it's almost something that you have to do, especially if an industry is emerging or if an industry is overly saturated. When you are a creative person, if you do not feel like you are able to find your space to express, what ends up happening is that you figure out a way to create it. You build your own path. And that's sort of what I did. And I almost feel like this is something that I have to double down on as a woman, because I specifically feel like I started my career in spaces that weren't exactly welcoming to me and what I had to bring to the table.
And sorry to interrupt for a second. Don't sell yourself short. You said you have to make your own path. Yes, you do, but very few do that. True. I know that's always been frustrating for me, for instance. Like I just sit around whining. Why won't somebody discover me? Or something like that.
I know, right?
You made your own path.
I've tried, but I think that comes from, again, a pain point of being underestimated. So again, the pull is, you know what? I'm not going to wait for permission. I want to do something. If I want something done, I want to do it myself. And that's what I've been trying to do.
So what brought you to this conclusion? Like you went through some journey, discovering yourself and stuff, and then you realized, people actually need that. So I'm going to not only change my own path and take control, I'm going to also lead people into how they change their path. But I want to start with your Middle East's most empowered woman leading the way. Maybe you can also tell us about that. So it's a whole journey because you started with also it was difficult for you being a woman into being the most influential one.
Yeah, I think, look, especially in this, so I've been in the communications industry up until the point where I pivoted for about 15 years, okay? So I've worked for huge multinational conglomerates and I've excelled very quickly. My growth was exponential, very, very fast. And I credit that to again, what I was trying to say. I had an urgency to the way that I worked because although I worked as a strategist in these fields, I started out as a designer. I felt like being behind a computer wasn't enough for me. I moved into strategy, so I was client facing. I was someone that was very much helping facilitate relationships with CEOs and the leaders of the companies that I was part of until I got to a point where, I met an amazing co-founder and we decided to co-found a company called Beatty & Dane, where we were able to develop our own model to facilitate the kind of communication work in this space that was aligned to our values. So I did that, and then COVID came along. And although that, with that company, we became awarded at Cannes. We were the first Kuwaiti company to be awarded at Cannes Lion. We were recognized by Dubai Links 2 years in a row for being Independent Agency of the Year. We were recognized throughout the region for this incredible work that we were doing because it was disrupting an already very saturated industry, which was the communication industry. But after COVID, a lot of things changed for me as an entrepreneur. And a lot of it was rooted in this idea of entrepreneurship. And a lot of people forget to mention this when they're encouraging you to leave your quote-unquote shitty corporate job, which is a complete farce. But they encourage you to go into entrepreneurship with these rose-colored glasses of, you will get the freedom that you currently do not get in corporate environments. But the struggle is, as a creative, when you are an entrepreneur and when you are running a business, you don't always have the time to create. So I got to a pivotal point in my life where I burnt out, but also there was so much more that I wanted to do 15 years into my career. And that's when I sold and exited my company, packed up, moved from Kuwait to Dubai, and started a podcast and a new company that's focused on strategy and specifically IP development. So my pivot is very much rooted in storytelling because I feel like kind of the common thread in all of this is finding your own path.
So this shift of from strategist and a designer into writer came once you moved to Dubai?
I think I've always been a writer. Okay. When I was a kid, I was in theater my entire life. So I was in theater clubs. I used to compete. I used to live in North Carolina, and if you are in magnet schools, I was in a magnet school that was a performance-based magnet school. So I was in a theater program, and I actually used to compete on stage. I would stage manage shows, I would act, I would do a variety of different things. So writing and reflection is very much something that I've always had. I just never monetized it. It was never a quote-unquote business. Even in my last business, it was something that I loved to do, and I would work with my creatives to do it, but it wasn't my sole job. Now, it's very much a core part of what I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what kind of projects are you involved in
That
now?
was going to be my question. Like, how? What's the writing you do? Yeah.
So obviously script development. So when I say IP development, original IP is basically taking an idea and developing it into a story that can potentially be commercially viable in the film, television, or podcast narrative space. So for example, this podcast isn't narrative-based because there's not a scripted storyline, but that is something that we would do in-house at Bark & Berg. And this is just one vertical of our business. The other vertical of our business is strategy development. It's very clear that one vertical obviously generates more revenue than the other because one thing that's important to know, IP development is a long-term game. It's not something that can be easily monetized at the very beginning because it has so many components to it that people don't really talk about, that needs to be invested in.
Such as?
The nurturing of talent, such as upskilling existing talent, because to write is one thing, but to write for TV, as you would probably know, David, to write for TV and for film is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
It's not just, I can do it in content, I can do it for a book, I can do it for screen. No, actually, it takes a different frame of thinking to translate something from a script into something that is going to become visually enticing on screen.
Yes. But also I'm wondering when you speak about an IP, I mean, an IP is, you're speaking about the talent and the IP almost as an interchangeable thing. But I think there's also, and for me, perhaps, I was thinking about the viewer, forget about the viewer, or listener. For me, I would want to clarify between what you are developing. Yet when you talk about nurturing the talent, but you're trying to develop an IP, Harry Potter is a famous IP. Marvel superheroes are an IP. It's the actual story itself, as opposed to the talent behind it. Marvel has about 5 billion people behind the Marvel superheroes, so they nurture the talent to do it. But what they're really nurturing is the superheroes, correct?
Correct. And when we talk about IP, it is the story, but it's also the characters. So the simplest example is Friends, as an example, as a sitcom. Each Friends character is IP, and we saw that with the spin-off of Joey as a TV show after Friends ended. So the development of IP is really an investment in an asset that can grow in a variety of different ways for the film and TV space.
And how would you do that? Because, for instance, Harry Potter is inextricably tied to J.K. Rowling. She created it. It's hers. She wrote the book. She didn't have to develop it with the studio or anybody. So it's hers. To a certain degree, yes, somebody's studio wants Harry Potter, but they want, even better, a Harry Potter where there's no J.K. Rowling attached, who can make controversial statements, for instance, on social media, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that's what I was asking, I guess, in the long run. Which one are you developing, Harry Potter or J.K. Rowling?
But that's the thing. In that, first of all, J.K. Rowling did have a development process because she worked with an editor before her book was published. So it follows a similar process. And when it went into movie, most likely, I don't know the details, but J.K. Rowling wasn't part of adapting it to a screenplay.
She probably was not.
Yeah,
no. But that's the thing. Like, she would get a lot of money from it, 100%. But they also wouldn't make the new adventures of Harry Potter. They would just, as we see recently, they made 20 years ago they made feature films. Now they're making TV series because they can put in more of the books, but they're not making new things. As opposed to Marvel, who can make new Spider-Man adventures and keep churning them out forever.
But all that has to do with the deals that are made with the creator and the people producing it. Some creators retain their IP, and for example, in the case of J.K. Rowling as an example, I don't know anything about her deal, but Harry Potter could be the only thing she creates in her life, and because of the deal that she's made from IP, she can, just profit off of all of these different spin-offs, okay?
Yeah.
But for some people, they have to sell their IP up front. And you find that with a lot of original content on Netflix. Netflix, when they work with creators, with writers, they own the IP 100%. The creator gets paid for whatever it is that they produce, and then bye. They don't make money after that.
So, for instance, the guys who created Stranger Things, which I think is one of the biggest successes Netflix has had since they came into existence.
I think so.
They probably do not own Stranger Things. That's Netflix property.
I'm 99% sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Queen's
Even
Gambit,
they are also involved in the process. Like, they do have their account managers, executive producers. They are involved in post-production and
They
the
have their
development
development team.
process. It's basically their product.
By
Netflix, like
Netflix.
their team, they are involved in the creative process and they're the executive producers for it. So it's not like a total indie approach or like independent approach.
So it's much closer to the golden age of Hollywood, what MGM or Walt Disney were back in the day, where they nurtured talent at the studio, but still they owned Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz,
100%, but it's interesting. Look, specifically Netflix, what's nice about them is that they very much they're interested in investing in talent to be able to create original content for them. Because what we've seen what they've seen is that it's incredibly profitable for them to have their own IP library that they continue to build. It adds to their valuation as a company. However, we also can look at different examples. I don't know if you remember the show I May Destroy You by Michaela Cole. There was a famous story there where she had her show and she wanted it to be on Netflix, but she wasn't happy with the fee that they were offering, and she wasn't happy with her having to sell her IP completely in exchange for that. So she said no to Netflix, and this is actually a very famous story. You can look it up on YouTube. She gave a whole speech about this specific experience, and it's such a great educational thing to listen to because it shows you the struggle of being a creator and not always understanding the industry, especially if you don't have an agent representing you, especially if you don't know what your rights are as a creator, you don't know how to play the IP game. She made a conscious decision of my work is worth more and I'd like to own a portion of it. And she went to another platform, which I believe was Amazon Prime. I may be wrong on that. And I May Destroy You exploded. It was brilliant. It's one of my favorite shows.
I really like your approach. It's like you cutting through the noise. People usually just swimming between, do I make a TV show, a film, how do I fund it, all these kind of things, while you seem to be more focused on storytelling, whatever that whatever format is that. And then once you find the story, then you decide the appropriate format to tell that story. Which goes back to what you said at the beginning. I see there's a gap in communication. So you found your communication is media and writing and the appropriate format for it. How do you find the response from your client? And because it's such a niche concept, which this will lead us to your business as well, because such a niche concept, I don't think many people realize that if you go just like to any business company, for example, telecom company or whatever, who have no idea about how the industry works, and you say, okay, I'm gonna package it for you, I'm gonna communicate your brand and identity through storytelling and find the proper, appropriate medium for that. How did you start communicating your business for people to understand what you do exactly, and how are you finding the response?
First of all, Yani, you've done a really good job of summarizing exactly what my thinking was in this process. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
For me, writing and storytelling is the seed to anything. Whether you are an entrepreneur starting your business and trying to solve a problem, it's rooted in a story that is specific to your experience. And that's something big that I've learned through podcasting. It's so much deeper than just the mechanical part of creating a product to solve a problem. So for me, getting that seed right is incredibly important. And the way that we do that from a strategic perspective at my company has gained a lot of positive response from companies, because what has a tendency to happen, again, I'm talking about the strategy vertical, what has a tendency to happen is that you have these visionary leaders who have a vision of where they want to go, but they struggle about how to get there because everything rests on their shoulders as the leader. When in reality, everyone who is part of this company has a role to play in getting there.
And their marketing team not necessarily understanding that or doing a great job. They're just like closing whatever
Honestly,
concept and that's it.
Sometimes I almost feel like the marketing team are I don't know how to say this, but they're the ones who get the short end of the stick because they are not getting the right communication from their leader. The leader has a vision, but the way that it's being communicated may be incorrect in itself. And a lot of time, leaders won't take accountability for that. They won't take a step back and think it must be me. It's usually, I hired the wrong people, or why can't they just do their job? These are the roles they're meant to fulfill, and there's a laundry list of roles. And it's just, why can't you just do the role that's written on the paper? But it's so much deeper than that. So what we try to do is kind of bridge that gap. We're the bridge when it comes to our strategy.
That was my next question, which is, how do you do it differently, or how do you ensure that you're getting the appropriate message from the leaders of any business? How different you would do it than the marketing team itself?
Well, I think the first thing, and I learned this with my first business, a lot of the leaders that we've worked with is we've developed relationships with them outside of their context. So we remove them from their business for a while to get them to kind of take a step back and recalibrate what it is that they're trying to do. Because a lot of the time, they haven't had an opportunity to step back and reflect. And when you don't do that and you're in a constant state of movement and creation, it becomes very difficult to execute. So I think that's something key to how we work and what we do.
In a way, you're asking them to step back and look at the big picture
100%.
again, rather than get lost in the details.
100%. Because that's what their role is. And reflection's a big part of that.
Now, I know you can't talk about any projects in development, obviously not, but I was wondering if just for the listener at home, we could have some sort of example, like even a theoretical example of this.
Of the strategy or IP development?
Well, the strategy. You know, what you're talking about a leader can't convey the message, and you take them outside of their element.
Okay, so as an example, we've worked with a company. I'll give you kind of a not sexy company.
No, we want sexy.
No. But I think it's more interesting when it's not sexy because only the sexy companies get the attention when it comes to this. So this was a company that was very much focused on chemical products for engineering, okay? And a large part of their struggle was kind of getting inbound business, okay? Why isn't my business growing? It's staying consistent for too long. How can we grow and develop? So a lot of what we had to do was kind of get the leader to take a step back from the role and the KPIs that he was overseeing for everyone else and understand where it was that he wanted to be over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. And what was interesting is that so much of that vision was something that was written down and tucked away and not necessarily something that was communicated and discussed because he was so busy focusing on achieving the day-to-day goals that he didn't have the capacity to plan ahead. So what we were able to do is kind of almost rewrite what his vision was going to be. And once we had that in check, we were able to re-engage with the entire team and make them feel like they are part of creating the action plan moving forward. And I think that's what makes us different in terms of how we develop strategies with clients, how we work with business leaders. And I want to, a lot of people, when they hear me talk about this, they say, oh my God, that's great. That means you're a business coach. No, a business coach works with the person, the development of the person. We do the actual strategy work in-house.
Of the company.
Of the company.
Exactly.
So we create it for the company. We write it. We write it with them. We extract the insights from them, and we develop it in-house.
It's interesting, you know, when I teach screenplay writing to my students and they've got a lot of ideas, I think this would be a cool scene, that'd be a cool scene. And I say, if you don't have a clear protagonist with a clear goal, there's no way you can take all these cool scenes and put them in any sort of coherent structure and make a story. So what you're doing is basically with the company telling them what is the goal. You're making a story out of the running the company. Making
a story and almost associating a sense of purpose. Because I think, and I'll relate it back to protagonists and antagonists and storytelling in a sec, but I think when you look at motivation, or when you look at moving from point A to point B, if that becomes a solo job, it becomes a very boring story. It becomes a very boring company. And I think recognizing that as a leader is a game changer for companies and for brands when they start to understand that it is truly investing in the internal culture and in our collective as a team and getting us all on the same road. That is when we start functioning at kind of an optimal, not pace, I don't want to relate it to speed, at an optimal pulse. We start optimizing the pulse of how we work when we recognize that it literally takes a village to get us where we need to be. And if I were to relate that to storytelling and developing stories, the narrative of the solo writer and having this protagonist and this very kind of this antagonist that very clearly provides the obstacle for this protagonist, sometimes I think that doesn't make for the most interesting stories. The most interesting stories come from recognizing the different perspectives and players in a scene, in a scenario, and the tension that is created. I find story in the tension, and that innately starts to drive the purpose.
That's such an interesting word, because I realized, especially dealing with many students, sometimes it's not about the word as much as about how you define it. So no matter how many times you tell students conflict, they start thinking, okay, conflict is something very specific or one action. But when you describe it as tension, it can be translated to many other elements. It can be 100%. Tension through emotions, can be tension not necessarily through action or situation, through dynamic, for example, or many other things.
Through internal struggle. Yani, I love that you said it like that, because I always say when we talk about conflict or obstacles, or even story, plot, it always is kind of, the way a lot of writers tend to understand it is they think that it's about something has to happen, an event, a specific event.
Yeah.
Which, okay, yes, is the case a lot of the time. But to your point, tension also is a result of inner struggle. One of my favorite movies that was brilliantly written on Netflix, Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Noah and Greta. They're married, and they wrote this incredible script, funny enough, because they both are also products of divorces from previous marriages. But the way that they wrote this script, it wasn't about the event of the divorce. There was a divorce in the whole plot. It centers around them getting a divorce. But the movie's not about the divorce. The movie is about everything in between. That idea of coming to terms with yourself and the role that you played, not just in a marriage, but in a relationship, whether it was with your partner, with your child, with your surroundings. It's a mirror. It's beautiful. It's an example of brilliant writing.
It reminds me of, I think it was Blue Valentine or something.
Yeah.
The one for Ryan Gosling, was it?
And Michelle Williams.
Yeah, it's literally nothing is happening. It's more like sometimes even you don't have a valid reason for divorce. It's just like you run out of love or you run out of the situation it is. And it's translated beautifully, which you can understand that easier when we apply it to films. How do you translate tension into branding, identity, and IP?
Okay, so those are two different questions. How do you translate tension into branding and business? I think being super clear about what problem you solve and why that matters for the people that you're selling to. I think understanding that in its clearest sense helps you understand how you're supposed to build a relationship with someone.
Can I ask a question here? When you say translate tension, I think you guys lost me for a second. And that's because I'm dense. But when you say translate tension, you're saying, how are you trying to figure out what the problem is with the business that you're trying to help solve? Is that correct?
Yes.
So you're not necessarily looking for the villain.
No.
Because there's again, screenwriting 101, the three conflicts.
Yeah.
Man versus self, man versus nature. And usually we're looking for man versus man. But you're saying what you're looking for is something more subtle than that, whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
That causes the tension.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
The problem is that causes the tension, and that could be internal. That's what the point that I was trying to land.
Man versus self.
Yes, exactly.
It's really interesting because especially when you say that, for example, management, they're just focusing on executing, and then definitely the marketing team follows that energy. When someone is getting instructions with stress and doesn't have a clear vision, it translates to how they execute things. It seems that you have more of a genuine approach to that. Like, let's step back, not only defining the issue, how do we genuinely want to solve this, or how do we want to make this happen, rather than just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Any interesting story you have about something that was the block, but it was not expected or way easier than everyone thought it is?
Well, to get back, sorry, I just wanted to, again, I'm just wrapping my head around and making sure I understand it. You were talking about the chemical products with the company, you were saying. And then you said that what the company was, the head of the company was more focusing on the day-to-day instead of the long-term goals, correct?
And how to translate that for the rest of the team.
So would you say that was an example of what Deem is asking about?
That is an example, because I think a large part of what changed the dynamic of the team is that once we were able to narrow down where we are going versus how much we need to be selling on a day-to-day basis, the dynamic of the way the team started to work together changed.
That makes sense.
There started to be more
change
contribution.
What they do every day.
Correct. Yeah. There's more contribution. It's no longer a, what do you need me to do? It becomes a, listen, I have this idea and I kind of want to share it. Are you willing to listen?
That's a good point, because I think a big problem with a lot of marketing at a lot of companies is that it's reactive. What do you want me to do? That's what made me think of it when you said that. There's a lot of sitting around, what do you want me to do, as opposed to go out and do it.
100%.
So it's more about the motivation of them doing it rather than just what are they doing.
Yeah, because people talk about purpose on a very surface level, where it's just about our brand believes this, and this is our ethos, and then they write it in a pretty way and put it on a website that no one's ever going to see. All of this work should be done to facilitate what happens in-house. It's not about reaching out to your customer. This is the ethos of how you guys execute what the customer will eventually see. And funny enough, on the example of brilliant companies that do that, Netflix is one. Netflix had a heavy investment in developing their internal culture, where they worked with external consultants on this. And they wanted to create a brand that really was able to house and facilitate people that were coming in to really contribute, not just follow.
That's interesting, because I think in the entertainment industry, they're the one unequivocal success story over the past decade. The biggest success story, let's put it that way. And you look at, in comparison, a studio like Paramount. Paramount has gotten a lot of headlines over the past year, but to me, they seem to be flailing because they're trying to do things the old-fashioned way. They're trying to be an old-fashioned studio. And I think, I remember reading an interview with Paul Anka, Paul Anka, the songwriter.
Yes, of course.
And Paul Anka said as an aside that he said, what Netflix is doing, remember Netflix was trying to buy Paramount. He said, they don't want to. It's the head of Netflix is head of Paramount, or head of Warner Brothers, rather. And he said he's just trying to get Paramount to cough up a lot of money. He said, I've been in Vegas for years as an entertainer. I know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, wow.
And they pulled back just when Paramount coughed up a huge amount of money. So I think he was right. I think it was all just a bait and a feint from Netflix. Netflix couldn't have cared less, because they're doing exactly what they want to do. And what you're saying is what they're as successful as they are because they know exactly what they want to do.
I think, okay, if I want to build on that, I think that they know what they should invest in more, because they've invested in a model that draws on behavioral data from its platform. However, I think what Netflix understood much faster than everyone else, that while content is incredibly important, it is distribution that is king, not content. And I think what Netflix gets right more than anyone is distribution. And I don't want to take away from, because I'm also someone who believes that, movies and the cinema for sure has a place in our world when it comes to distribution. Not everything needs to just be on a streaming platform. But I think the beauty of what Netflix has been able to do was teach us all a lesson behind this idea of distribution is really, distribution is king.
The medium is the message.
Literally.
I'm interested to see how do you apply this within your own company. Bark and Berg is such an interesting name. How did you come up with it? Why? And how does this identify your own identity and voice as a brand as well? So
Barkenberg was a name that I always loved, and originally was supposed to be the name of a tea brand that I wanted to come out with, an iced tea brand. Okay, Bark came from cinnamon bark, and Berg came from bergamot, the fruit. But what's interesting is I didn't want to lose the name, but I wanted to find a way to kind of make it make sense. And what's interesting, what the reference to bark in general in Arabic is sanad. So it's the bark of a tree. It's something that you can lean on. It's something sturdy. It is something rooted and grounded. And I loved that as a meaning. And Berg, the bergamot fruit, is very much a symbol of prosperity, but prosperity through joy. So I like this idea of creating something that was very much grounded and rooted, but is able to grow and develop through joy. Because also one thing about this industry, whether we're talking about communication, marketing, whatever it may be, because it is such a dog-eat-dog world, it has a tendency to take away the magic of what this world has to offer, especially when it comes to the actual talent community. And what I'm trying to do with Barkenberg is almost build my own community of writers, of talent, that inshallah will eventually be part of a lot of the original IP that comes from Barkenberg for film, for TV, or for podcast narratives.
Interesting.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, this leads me to the broader perspective of your work as well, because as I told you, I see there's more of empowering approach into that, not just like how can people achieve something, but helping them to navigate their struggles, obstacles, all these kind of things. How did you get into that?
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
I was absorbing what you said, which is why I was just like, oh, that's beautiful, because it is beautiful. So the bark is the strength, the berg is the magic. And so I guess what Dima is asking, like, how do you let them know that you bring both the strength and the magic?
Because you also had a talk in TED as well. You have many workshops, which we're going to talk about your upcoming workshop in a bit. So what are you exactly trying to do, and what do you find your cause?
Okay. So just so as not to confuse listeners, I, like any human being that is also a creative, am multifaceted, okay? I have a podcast, I have a business, but I'm also Dana Al-Hanbali, someone who is a human trying to navigate life, as we all are. And I think what has made me different, or maybe has helped me stand out, especially on my social media platforms, is that I've been very kind of open and honest about my experiences, the good and the bad. The things that I've failed at and the things that I've really succeeded at that I want to own just as equally. And I think in sharing those things, what that has done is it's opened the doors to a lot of people wanting to learn from me. Not from the perspective of me giving them advice, because I personally don't believe in giving advice, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I believe in sharing my experiences. And based on what it is that I share, my story, my perspective, whoever's listening, if they are listening enough or in a way where they are able to kind of receive what I'm saying without feeling like I'm dictating anything to them, they're going to take from it what matters to them. And I think that's what led to a lot of the response I've been getting, whether it's PR, whether it's the interviews or the recognition that I've gotten. I feel very privileged that I got it. But honestly, it wasn't something conscious and strategic. It came as a result of where I was in my life and my choice to share it.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned about the being recognized as Middle East most influential, like, or empowered woman. I always see these titles everywhere. Like, even if someone you don't know much about their work or heard of their name, suddenly they have influential or empowering. And I wonder, how do these titles come as a recognition of what? So I understand now what you're doing, but how did you get to be recognized into that, or what specifically? They felt there's a gap, maybe, or something.
I don't know if they felt that it's a gap, Dima. I think it's something that when someone sees it, you get it. I don't think it's something that you can chase. One of my friends said something to me once, and it was so brilliant. When you present yourself to the world in your most authentic version, whether it's right or wrong, somehow they're just going to accept you. And there's something very freeing about just freeing yourself from a narrative of how everyone else has defined you, and just owning it without kind of being arrogant about it, but just owning that this is me in my fullest self. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, I respect that. And I think when people see that, that's what drives, you know, when I get someone who wants to write something about me, or they want to award me with something. And the podcast received an award in its first year. My podcast, something to consider.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But like, even that, I wasn't the award was for social impact. The award was for social impact. But see, social impact, why? Like, and I remember getting that award and asking the question, like, why social impact? And it was because, honestly, the engagement it generated, because of the content that was being put out there, was something that meant something to a lot of people. It got recognized.
But yeah, I mean, and that's it. Social impact, because absolutely I agree 100% about what you're saying about being authentic about who you are, and the world will respond. But I also think what Dima was saying a second ago, it's absolutely true. You are doing something that nobody else is doing in this region. And this comes back to, Amar was on the show last week talking about the trying to bring people together in a community. That there are always people talking about creative industries, an entertainment industry here, but very few people are doing the practical steps to make it grow. Yes, take the lead. And you're providing something that absolutely is necessary. And no one else is doing it. So that I can see why there's a social impact.
Yeah. I if you don't mind, I'd like to elaborate on that from literally what am I doing. So as part of us investing in the development of original IP that originates from the region, whether it's in Arabic or in English, is I launched a writer's room. Okay. Writers' rooms as a format are more well known in the States than they are on this side of the world, and they almost function as a literal production asset. People are hired on a contract basis to be part of usually a TV series or unscripted shows, like, for example, SNL. And they come together, and there is a head producer or story producer, head writer, who kind of is in charge of ensuring that we get from point A to point B. But then there are people who contribute to the development of a story. And I love this as a format because what it does is it kind of takes the pressure off so many incredibly talented writers that feel like they need to do things on their own to contribute and to be seen.
I ran a writer's room in Munich for a TV show I created.
Amazing.
Best job I ever had.
It's beautiful.
And if you're a writer, if you're a creative, it's the best thing out there.
It is.
It's an office job. You come 9 to 5 every day, but you just brainstorm stories and you create together.
And it's beautiful because I think, again, the best part about the creative industry, and sometimes we forget it because what tends to happen is we highlight the sexy actor or we highlight the sexy director. We forget that it takes a huge amount of people to create one piece of work, one film, one episode of a TV show. It really takes a lot of people. And what I love about writers' rooms is that they bring that element of engagement to a job that, for some reason, consistently is sold as a solo thing.
A solo thing, yeah. And for the most part, writers' room, for people who are listening who don't know what a writers' room is, writers' rooms were developed for episodic television to generate a stable of scripts that the cast and crew could work from for the season. So a group of, say, 6 people would come together in a room, brainstorm a season's worth of stories, and everybody would come with a story idea. And everyone would contribute to developing that story idea into a full hour-long episode. The person usually who came in with the initial idea would then go off and write the script. and then others would contribute to that overall. But you'd see for an individual episode of, say, Gilmore Girls, one person's name, the rest of the writers for that week would be executive producers, usually. That's usually a consulting producer, whatever it is. But anyway, it's for long-form generation of content. It's not so much for films unless they know they have a franchise and they want to make a lot of films.
Correct.
But it is such a great and healthy, I think that's what you were getting at, it's such a healthy way for writers to work, that they're not alone in a garret, with a bottle of whiskey and a Remington typewriter, the usual cliche idea of a writer.
Correct.
That they're working together and the stories are stronger for all that, the contributions of everybody.
100%. And I also think that, look, when it comes to writers, I think that, the region is not short on incredible opportunities when it comes to labs, mentorship programs, different kind of, not even academically driven, structural workshops and courses that writers can attend, okay? They already exist, and I think that's great. But I think what's beautiful about what it is that I'm trying to do, and I hope everyone who participates feels this, is it almost feels like a simulation of what happens in real life. So it's garnering a different skill set that they haven't experienced yet. And I think it pushes them outside their comfort zone of creation. Because a lot of people, especially when you're a writer, I love the quotes because this is so true. When people talk about writers, what's her name? Phoebe Waller-Bridge always says this. It's 99% procrastination, which I totally agree with. It's 99% procrastinating on what it is, and then it's like 48 hours of staying up and just getting it done.
Yeah, it builds, and then it comes out in a rush.
Literally, it comes out in a rush, and what a rush. But what I've noticed, especially with writers as creatives, we tend to stay in our own head a lot for a variety of different reasons. And I think for even my own development, it's so important to get out of my own head, not just to get my ideas out there, but to help me practice my craft. It's incredibly important to be able to learn how to articulate your idea better, how to pitch your idea better. What's interesting is that some of the writers I've met are the worst pitchers when it comes to their ideas. They're so
100%. I would say everybody is because they live inside their heads.
They live inside their
pitching
heads.
is performance art.
Thank you.
And
yes.
so it's something that has to be learned.
100%.
And before I ran the writers' room, I was lucky enough to be sent by the network to a writers' room seminar run by writers from LA who'd worked for many years. And this one guy, Lee Goldberg, who he was showrunner for a lot of big cop shows like Diagnosis Murder with Dick Van Dyke.
Wow.
And he'd been doing this for years, so he had pitching down to an art form. I've never seen somebody pitch a script idea like this guy. Like he was hilarious. He was a stand-up comedian, really. And if you do that, they're going to give you the green light for it. But you have to be able to do that, and that's a tough thing to do.
Yes, and thank you for saying that and acknowledging that. And funny enough, you asked me about kind of how I got there, especially from the communications side.
To writing. Writer room, yeah.
I started out as a designer. So my college experience was design at a computer, graphic, visual, painting,
individual work.
Whatever. What made me stand out throughout my entire career was my ability to pitch. Like, that is where I thrive. That is where I shine. And I think it has to do, also it's connected to my theater background. It was always something that I loved to do. And funny enough, that's what got me in rooms I may not have gotten into otherwise. It was my ability to pitch. And again, that's a skill. And I don't think everyone would learn a skill like that.
They wouldn't learn the skill. Also, I think, and I know that we at Middlesex teach the pitching over and over, but I think students are very reluctant to learn it and are unconvinced in their heads. Even if we tell them, you have to do it, it's an assignment. They're very unconvinced in their heads that they really have to. They think, I'm a creative, my story should speak for itself.
You're absolutely right.
And it's just not true.
But it's not true. And thank you for saying that, because I used to get this a lot, especially when I was in the industry of, oh, please, pitching is just salesy and it's selling yourself and a salesperson needs to do it. And I'm just like, actually, no, that's absolutely not the case. Pitching is an art. It is so much harder to get an idea into a sentence or to do a presentation in 10 slides than it is to do it in 100 slides. You have to understand how to get things to land. You have to understand what words to use. You have to understand the dynamic of the person in front of you getting bored, and how you're going to get them to invest in a vision that you see up here that doesn't exist yet. And that comes from the art of pitching.
I figured it out.
And now Dee will explain it all to us.
Now I'm connecting the dots because at the beginning I was like, how are you combining between the business world and the creative world? Now I understand because of pitching. Because they have many ideas, including me. I'm just waiting for someone to land and figure me out. Well, there are many aspects that I didn't figure out myself. But I see the gap, or how do you break that from your inner world, how you're thinking about things and actually make it, is when you communicate and pitch your own story and work. And that's why I said it's very interesting. How could you even pitch the idea for business people who they just think of a rigid, straightforward approach to marketing, but when you provide something new, how do you convince them that this is what they need?
Yeah.
This is the pitching skill. And I do agree that mainly for students, especially for media, no matter how many times you tell them you need to start thinking of media as way of communication, they don't get it. No. And you need to focus, even if you're pitching or making video, film, whatever, you need to think from the audience perspective and how this communication is being perceived.
There's always that, I can always see it in their eyes, even if they say, no, I don't think that. My work should speak for itself. But it doesn't, and what it also sends a message to of other people, if you can't pitch yourself and what you do well, then you don't know it yourself. You can't get control over your story.
And you can't even begin your work to show it. You can't even start your work to show it. Show it for who,
There's a security and a confidence that comes in your ability to communicate an idea to someone that has no reason to care. There's something special in that. And there are so many different ways to practice it. Like sometimes it can happen in social settings. And that's what I love doing. I did this in one of our workshops last year about how to package your story into something that can potentially be pitched to producers or to a platform. But I think this entire conversation of what we just said, also, I kind of want to comment on a misconception that a lot of creatives take for granted. And it's I should be known for the brilliance of what it is that I'm writing because I am an artist and that is where I come from and I understand my craft. Amazing, good for you, but this is also a business. And I do believe there is a commercial sensibility that they need to have an understanding of when they enter the industry that a lot of them don't unless they have interned or worked in some way, shape, or form within the industry, which in itself, especially in this region, because it's still emerging as an industry, is very, very difficult. This is a business, okay? It's not just art. It is an art form 100%, but at the end of the day, it needs to sell for it to be of value and for it to be consistently running. And I think it's very important for writers to understand that. Because once you understand that, I'm not telling you you have to end up your writing becomes garbage. No. But you start to understand, okay, I have an audience to attend to. What are the parts of my story that are going to mean something to people?
Yeah, and it's not crassly commercial. It's about connecting with people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what they don't understand, I'm specifically talking students, sorry.
Why?
I don't, because my brain is hooked there.
No, let's do it. Because after all, we are Crossroads at Mira Business FM in collaboration with Middlesex University Dubai. Catch us on all the usual platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it. Thanks.
I don't want to make it sound like venting, but just sharing.
Sharing is caring.
That sometimes you might have the greatest idea in the world, but because you didn't pitch it properly, you're not getting what you get, right? And you said something specifically about this region. Do you find that the perspective is different, or you have to change your approach when you're pitching from one region to another?
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Do I have to change my approach when I'm pitching from one region to another? I don't know if I would say region. I think I have to take into consideration that anyone that I speak to is different.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Because honestly, it changes. Like I could be in Qatar and the room that I am in is with a mix of people from different roads of life. But I understand that the entity that I'm speaking to is particularly interested in a specific angle. So if I have something, I'm going to play into that angle. I'm going to go in knowing that. I for sure think it's the most kind of naive thing to take the same idea and pitch it the same way to everyone. I think that's the kind of a rookie mistake.
Basically, reading the room is a big part of pitching.
100%. Reading the room, and that comes from understanding people. Yeah. It comes from understanding relationships.
But this requires high emotional intelligence.
I think honestly, I don't know about high emotional. It requires intentional observation. It requires practice. Don't expect that you're going to get it from day one. Expect that you're going to go into rooms where people are bored. I swear to God, I went into a room once, just to tell you this one story. This was very, very early days. I was so excited. I thought, I'm so creative and wonderful, and they're going to love me and fall in love with me and amazing. And I was in a room. This was at my early days of my career. And I'm presenting, and I'm emphatic, and I'm like, animated and theatrical and da-da-da-da. And the CEO is looking at me like this, and he's just like, I finished, and I'm waiting for his response, and he's like, how old are you? Oh my God. Wow. And the problem was, at that point, I was so thrown off. I didn't know how to save myself in that moment. And you could see that I was thrown off because in my head, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
And you don't know if this is a compliment that you're like
It wasn't
striving,
a compliment.
or
It wasn't a compliment.
You know
I
nothing
don't think
about
from
it.
any angle that could be in that context. It could be a
It
compliment.
wasn't a compliment.
But
How did you handle that?
I don't remember, but I remember that it was a lesson.
What would you tell your younger self as a lesson learned now down the road? How is the best way to react? Because here's another thing, and it's great you brought up something like that. You're always going to have hostile audiences.
Of course.
And that's part of pitching. It's like, think of yourself, I draw the analogy with a stand-up comedian. Even the best stand-up comedian will probably go into a rough room sometimes where they just don't like his jokes. And they got to roll with it and adapt. And when you're pitching and you see that the audience is just not buying what you're selling, as in this case, what would you say now? It would be the advice.
Fall and fail faster. Fall and fail faster, because that is what has made me better. That is what has made me more confident. What has helped me perfect my craft. And I feel like, not perfect my craft, do better at my craft, evolve my craft. And particularly with writers, there's an attachment to ideas, and everyone's always afraid to share their idea because someone's going to take it away. Guys,
You got to get over that.
You have to move. That's also a rookie mistake that producers recognize. And they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever, like go back to school. No. One idea, and the simplest example is with the Steve Jobs movie. I think it was made like 5 different ways, but it's the same story. It was the life of Steve Jobs, but a team came in and were able to tell his story in a variety of different ways. And I think that's what's beautiful about storytelling. We could all agree that we want to talk about the origin story of, as an example, Dubai. The origin story of the rise of Dubai, as an example, or the rise of the UAE. But if you sit with 10 different directors, each one is going to tell it from a distinctly different perspective. And that's important to note as a creative. The IP is not just about the idea. It's about how it's developed.
Oh, that's a great point. And you're right. It is absolutely a rookie mistake that somebody thinks, I have a great story idea. I can't share it with anyone. I hoard it like my gold. You put it out there, but it's got to be, it's the storyteller, far more than the story.
Apart from that, what I've noticed as well, especially for creatives, the more you keep your ideas to yourself, afraid of some other person stealing it or whatever, first, it means you're in shortage of ideas. Because otherwise you would be confident enough to share and expand, and I will always be active in ideas. The other thing is you're suppressing yourself by yourself. So I see that the more you share and get ideas out of the way, the more you generate as well. But if you suppress it, hold on these 2 or 3 ideas, means you're suppressing them, you're holding into it, you're not generating any new ones to expand.
Comes again to what we were talking about with the writer's room. That's why it's such a great creative experience for writers, because they're coming in with ideas and bouncing them off other people, and the ideas just keep generating. Like you said, that's what's so good, bringing creatives together, that they do generate more ideas rather than hoarding.
On that note, the Writers' Room has a workshop coming up on May 20th. So if you're interested, please do apply. It is an application process, meaning that your application needs to be approved before you're sent all the details, because I'm making a conscious effort to curate a room of people that are genuinely interested, not just looking for a cool community to be part of.
You will find us suddenly, David and I, showing up.
Welcome. Hayakum Allah. Hayakum Allah.
Change the locks.
Love it.
Nice.
Can we talk a little bit about that workshop? Sure. What, for instance, I said, that a writer's room is put together to, when a new show is given a green light, they'll put together a writer's room. Or a studio wants to be the new Marvel, so they'll put together a writer's room to get a whole series of interconnected movies, blah, blah, blah. What is the what's the goal of the writer's room?
What's my angle?
Yeah.
So the writer's room is a product in Barkenberg, but the way that I scope out talent is through these workshops. And I'm very transparent about it. These workshops, at the end of the day, provide value for people that are writers that want more insight into the industry, because a lot of them don't necessarily have hands-on experience or insight, or go to festivals, or have met with producers before. So they don't have anyone who's giving them their information, unless they're listening to stories of how people in the West have been able to do it. So I try to curate workshops that provide some level of value. Like I talked about pitching to platforms, developing your idea in a way where it can be packaged a specific way. This specific workshop is about story development. And what's nice about it is, again, it's a community of writers that are going to come together, learn about story development, but also going to be put into these kind of mock exercises where they're going to get a sense of what it feels to be part of an ideation session in a writer's room. So it's almost going to be like a simulation experience. Small and short, bite-sized, but at least they get a vibe for that experience. But my angle as a business owner, this is also a great way for me to audition potential talent, because I get production houses coming to me and saying, listen, we want writers, we want ideas. Can we commission your writer's room from your company? You bring us the 6 writers or whatever. We want to develop a specific show. Those are the relationships that I've spent the past 3.5 years garnering. And that's essentially what I'm trying to do with our IP development.
And which platforms do you mainly get the most requests for? Is it like for TV shows, films, just mix?
TV shows specifically now are things that a lot of platforms want to invest in. There are specific genres that people care about, but again, that changes year on year based on the data. It changes.
But it's so invaluable. This is what you and I were talking about before the show when we were outside, and you were saying that in other countries there is an ecosystem, was the word you used, for entertainment, the entertainment industry, where the studios will put people under contract. Whereas here, writers have to work at a bank, work at a school, work at a hospital, whatever, and write on the side.
Job. Yeah.
This is a chance to get a foot in the door of that and start an ecosystem.
Correct.
Am I really hearing that already?
Yeah, Faraj annoying us again.
No.
This is the only thing I don't miss being back in the studio. Faraj's music.
No, I love Faraj's music. Yeah, you are a Renaissance man. We got to, but okay. Dana, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I've enjoyed it so much. Thank you. And by the way, your voice is amazing. I love your voice. So like I can imagine it, I swear, in like a Pixar animation film. It's insane.
As I said, I was an Eminem with J.K. Simmons.
I love it.
Let's get into a writer's room where we develop
more M&M commercials for you. Yes, please. Next time, next week's Crossroads. You've been listening to Crossroads on Mira Business FM in association with Middlesex University, Dubai. Stumbled on that one.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faraj. Bye-bye.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.